The southern part of India was in very bad state of the famines. And the third one, I would say, 1951. And what is the reason? IIT Kharagpur. And I consider that because it's a completely different kind of education system that the people of those days, they thought about, particularly with Sarkar Committee report. They brought in engineering as a course. It's not that there are no other engineering colleges in India. We did have even B College right here, not very far from here, which was even 1 year roughly before the Calcutta University, I think 1856. But most of the faculty members, others in Senate, they were like all foreigners. So bringing in India into the system is a completely homegrown system with well planned, with a policy, with the Sarkar Committee report, something that actually paved the way for modern day, manpower training, innovations, and what we see today is a very special kind of education that even now is a brand name, that all over the IIT is a system. So it brought in the kind of engineering education that we have today. But if you look at the evolution of IIT system, so initially we did not have what we call the bottom of pyramid, in the sense that excellent engineering manpower to be developed. We had Guindy University, we had Roorkee, but not at a level which can actually go all over India and cater to the needs of the country. So IITs were tasked to do that, and IIT Kharagpur had almost 7 to 8 years lead compared to the rest of the IITs in terms of starting it from there with your own internal people. And for the next 30 years or so, it really worked. I would say the first 30 or 35 years of IIT Kharagpur, and similarly maybe for other IITs, I call it IIT 1.0, where the focus is developing manpower at a very high end, and so that they could actually go and serve in various disciplines that India needed in providing the leadership in manpower, industry, as well as those days in various companies that had, also in academics definitely. Then if you look at the next set of 30 years or so, I'd call it IIT 2.0. And the whole purpose there is that having done an undergraduate level of education where the primary emphasis was like that, and then you move it to more at the postgraduate level where the research was in focus. And all IITs put together have done wonderfully well in terms of coming out with names that actually publishing papers, coming out research, even patenting. All this became the main chore of the day. And all over India as well as outside, IIT started getting recognized as a research institution. So that's the kind of thing that where we are now. If you look at what should be the next, so we have to launch into IIT 3.0, okay? And where we have to now create things which is not so much, it's already the seed is there. We have to create jobs, we have to create new companies, we have to actually bridge the gap with the industry that we have to take them there, and we have to basically connect to the society, the people that we need. Of course we have so many young achievers, and they have already started doing some of the wonderful things. I'm glad the Swiggy, your entrepreneur, did not use a Swiggy delivery boy to get his degree supplied to him. Okay, he did come here, but it is all kind of new areas that we see that IITs is, the people talk about that, what is happening to our core areas at the engineering, and this is what we started doing it. And if you look at today, our students, whatever the alumni, they go out and do many other things, and wherever there is something very unique. And it's not that they have to really be always doing like what they are taught, because that is, we teach them to do something which is beyond what was being taught. You explore the world, there are so many new things and others, and we are very happy that people are doing a lot of other things, and that's where actually contribute to the development of the society, development of the country, creating jobs for the people, creating opportunities for the young people, and that's what we are meant for. So we should not be worried that where our manpower they're going. It's not something that we should be worried at all, as long as they are really doing the leadership role in whatever things that they pursue in their life. We have an excellent lawyer sitting here. We have all other people who have excelled, as well as, of course, we also continue to do our research and other. We have teachers, we have industrialists, everybody is there. So they should excel in whatever disciplines they want. Now, also, there have been a lot of discussions on, what kind of names, and I think the director himself said, like, your ranking, US ranking, which our time was never heard of, that there is something called rank. We were happy to be here, and we studied, and we also talked, we discussed, and went out, and we thought we were doing fine. So, taking back to whatever, typical Upanishadic way, I think there is also a way of saying that, if I, like you say that, Tamosho ma Jyotirgamaya, so I can probably twist it a little bit, and I can say, Anamaha ma Namaha Gamaya. So take us from the no name to some name, because everybody demands that we should have some nice rank, we should be like, top in the world, we should be top 100 or whatever, so many ranking. But frankly speaking, we should not worry too much of that, because, if our products, finally the students and our alumni, if they are doing well, that's a justification itself of what IIT Kharagpur is doing, and I don't think we should worry at all. Because remember, as a student, our lifetime in the campus is only maybe 2 years minimum, to 4 years, 5 years, 6 years PhD, but not beyond that. But an alumni, you are an alumni of IIT Kharagpur for maybe 40 years, 50 years, till you breathe your last, right? So your association with your alma mater is for a much longer time. And that's what we cherish. That's why you see people coming in, and all IITs, we would like to connect to our alumni, because they are the lasting relationships. So if you have verticals of IIT, of course, one of them student, that's what we have here. Then we have professors, all the faculty members, they're providing the education. We have a support staff, we have excellent staff who support them. And then the fourth vertical is actually the alumni, because they tell us, they bring IIT, the glory of IIT Kharagpur, to the rest of the world. And that's their job. And as long as they continue to be the torchbearer of the IIT Kharagpur name, I think we have reasons to be very happy and appreciative of what our students do. Now, so what has IIT education give us? For students, some of you already said, it's an excellent education. It's a good value proposition to be here. It's worth taking the 2-day train journey from Rajasthan to come here to the place, which those days there was no Google map so that you can do how to go there. So it's worth making that journey. And then, of course, the campus life, the ambience. So here, you make friends, which become your friends for the rest of your life. You meet some of the guiding professors, some of you said, they have really helped you in terms of, coming out, deciding, really motivating you to take up something challenging. And then what is very important in today's world is the networking opportunities. When you are here, the name IIT Kharagpur will help you to network with 60 to 70,000 people. They are all excellent people all over the world. They are looking forward to help each other no matter where you are trying to do something. So these are the things, which also lead us to some of the complaints which were earlier, when we were studying, we were told, is it like IIT, is it an elitist institution, like you are like elites or something? Does it, already, catering to the elites? No. If you look at the input, some of you said like you have not heard of IIT before, like when you were 10th standard. Even I never heard of IIT when I come from a village and I never heard of IIT. So when you come here, it's not that you come here as an elite. When you come out, the product is the elite. Because that's what takes you to the place where you can deliver a lot more. And it's not uncommon in the rest, even in the Western world. They have terms like IB school. Of course, your input is also often at the elite level. But here, the way we are different is the input is not the elite. The output is an elite one. So that's what. And if I remember correctly, we have similar thing even in France. They have grand écoles. So when you come out of the grand écoles, so it's very difficult to get in there as well. And when you come out, you get all of them. You get the networking, you get, these are the people who actually go up on the top because the way, what they deliver today. It's not that your upbringing and others, that definitely helps. But what you learn at the place, what kind of expertise did you develop, that take you to the next level. So I would, if you look at with that kind of prism, the elitism that we are breeding out of the system, they have served in the country and even abroad in many different diverse areas. We have people who are of course, in research and academics, that's what we do. We have them in industry, we have entrepreneurs, we have in the social workers, we have people who are, let's say, in management. There are people who are in NGOs, and I think you name it, even politicians. We have all our alumni everywhere, and they are all doing excellent work. And this is precisely the reason, I think, that if you look at, you go back and the Sarkar Committee report, that is precisely that we wanted, I think, to create the thinkers and the leaders of tomorrow. And if we are doing it, I think there is reason to be happy for those who are involved in the administration of the IT system. So, coming back is, I think, I would like to also dwell upon some of the challenges that we face today. And, so far we have done well, but the thing is we have to go further, the miles to go, right? The question is, what are the problems that we face? Now, one of the things is that, in my particular opinion, the expansion of the IITs, any particular IIT, is too rapid. And what it, of course, is good for the country because we are catering to a larger number of people, okay, which means we have more number of people who are coming out who could be leaders of tomorrow. But if you look at the problem that we face in terms of the infrastructure, because that cannot be done overnight, it takes time. And we are never, keeping pace with the growth that actually demands. There's always, the building doesn't come out in, overnight. It takes years, you need different permissions and others. So you need, you say that we need faculty. If you have increased your students, and then I have to increase so many, 10% of that should be the new faculty to be added. But when I add a new faculty, we expect the faculty to be excellent. And the first thing that I have to do is to make sure that the person gets proper laboratories, your space, equipments and other. And if you don't, we are actually killing the career of a young scientist. So that's also something which is not good. So this is a big challenge to how to actually merge these two particular phenomena, the growth in the number of students that we have to match with what are the infrastructural support that we actually, a particular IIT can provide. And that brings in to the next challenge is that it also requires a lot of funding. Because running, of course, it is something like I consider as a premier institute. We are better off than many of the other institutes all over India. But still, I would say that if you look at the funding level, let's say it's about 20 years ago, compared to what used to get funding per capita, means per student, from different, let's say, government and other sources. And if you do it over today, and also take care of the fact that there has been, the price escalation, whatever the, inflation. If you look at the inflation, actually that has come down significantly. So per students, the cost actually that we incur or we have to make do is much lower than what it used to be tomorrow. I mean, let's say 20 years ago. So this creates a lot of hurdle for the administration of the IIT system, and that's why we try to go for philanthropy, not only from your alumni, those who have done well, but maybe the other ones. And there are already some good philanthropic activity, but we're still not there where some of the US and other places they have done much better. But then also, if you look at the kind of the funding, if you really look into that, see, IIT typically we have roughly about 900 crores or something close to that, what is probably we need, in today's thing to make do with what we have. But the kind of expectations sometimes we have to do is a lot more. Okay. And if you compare that with some of the other, very well-known places like MIT, they have something like $3.5 billion worth of annual budget. And if you think that's US, okay, why not go somewhere different? Let's go to China. And you hear about Shanghai Jiao, or maybe Shanghai Jiaodong, that's it. For them also, the budget is something like $2.7 billion, okay? And to see the difference, whereas in India it's around $150 million, okay, for this one. So naturally, we are nowhere close to what we probably need. So we have to look into that. Hopefully we are trying. There have been some cases like Institute of Eminence and others. Kharagpur is also has been recommended. We hope to get certain kind of funding, but we need it on a yearly budget to give you even better, because nowadays we are not even able to give you a single sitter room to most of you, because you have to share, because we don't have that kind of infrastructure. So we need that, because in our time we did have an excellent kind, these were never a problem, okay? So we have to look at ways to create that kind of thing so that we can provide the best of the facilities that you need. Then, sometimes there have been also, the saying that why can't you charge more? Of course you can charge more, but then somebody from deep interior will not be able to come in. And I don't think charging anywhere has helped in terms of accumulating the kind of budget that the university needs. For example, the MIT example I gave you, their tuition fee collection is about 10% of their total budget. And for IITs also is pretty much similar, so it is no different. So where is the rest of the money that comes in? Of course, thankfully we have so far been supported well by the ministry, but we need more, right? The Pepsi at Dil Mange more, so we always want something like that. Now, I hope it does materialize, because that's, because we have a promise to keep to the nation that we have to deliver at the excellent level. So we need the kind of the support, maybe by philanthropists or from the government. We need that, and I hope will be happening. But there have been also, it's interesting that there have been in private universities across many other places, and even some of the government ones, they increase the fees quite drastically. And there are different ways of managing it. Let's say for US, you get a lot of loan, okay? From there, India also, I think there has been some loan has been made available. But like in China, they don't charge really much. It is similar to what we have in India. It's around roughly $2,000 to $3,000 a particular year. On the other hand, if you look at Australia, they have a completely different model. So this idea is that you charge them completely, okay? Something like $40,000 a year, and they will get a loan from the government, will make sure that all the students will get a loan. And how do they pay back? So you have to wait till you come to a level, you go for a job, and once your salary is above certain limit, then it will automatically build through your income tax, so that you will get it back. So it's like a deferred payment. It's not linked to your parents, okay? They don't have to mortgage anything, okay? If you never earn that much, you don't have to pay. So that means your performance will, if you perform well, you can pay it up very quickly. So that's also a kind of a model. These are the different models. I think our administration at the top levels may want to look into that, but it'll be one, for us it'll be good if we do get some kind of a better support in terms of funding. Then also we have this issue of system inflexibility. Sometimes, it's whatever may be the reason, we have certain resource constraint, of course, unlike in many other places where resource is not much of a problem for us. It is definitely a constraint, and because of that we have many policy and other issues which tries to hold it. And some of them are, of course, I think removable, but somehow we are a little inflexible. For example, I can give you an example that I faced, I think, about a month ago. A student at IIT Bombay is a second year student, I think, and says, I want to take off, a year or 2 years off from my undergraduate degree. Now, I'm not getting it, so can you please approve as a director? And then I asked for the rule. This is like, as the rule says, that you can take it on this kind of a long break, only if you are unwell, if you have medical report. And I said, okay, what is your reason? He says that I have a great idea, I'm to start my company. Now this kind of thing was not there when IIT started. We never anticipated that the student would someday, second year student would try to do something and set up a company. So we were legit. So I said that, some of our people said, look, on what basis can we give it? Because our system doesn't permit, he's too young to take a decision, maybe hardly 18, 19 years old. Of course, definitely adult, by definition. Then I said, see, if somebody wants to do this particular kind of entrepreneurial activity, the timing is very important. See, and they already have some kind of a competition where they won some award also, okay? And they have also some money they received from that particular award. So if you tell them that, look, you defer your idea and come back after 3 years, by the time if this is no longer is conducive for the kind of idea that they have, or maybe somebody else have already started that. So I said, look, I promise I'll find out the way to do it, and hopefully, then somebody says that, what happens after 2-3 years, his friends are gone, his network would be gone. I said, look, if he does very well, you will probably doesn't come back at all. It doesn't matter, because he's helping it, he doesn't need it anymore, right? So these are something that we have to see, that we have to make our system more flexible. Also, we have system inefficiency, because you have more people into the system, we require more an efficient system, which of course we India, we always talk about whether we purchase, be like whatever, construction, repair, anything, maintenance, administration, everybody says, oh, why does it take such a long time? I applied for. So this is definitely there, but I must say that compared to many other places, IIT is much better than many places that if you have gone out and done this thing, you would have faced a lot more hardships. We are much better, but we can of course do even better. Then we need to also face the challenge that with industry, there is always some kind of a gap that we have existing. So we, as a professor, we say, oh, industry is not interested in connecting. They are, going with whatever their way. And industry may say, oh, what is this professor is writing this paper and all? It has no relevance. He doesn't know what the industry wants. So let's respect each other, okay? And if there's a way, we can actually connect them. And this is something that in the IIT 3.0, I think we need to connect for the, to make sure that we go up. So some of the US and many of the European ones, particularly Germans and others, have done very well, particularly the industries, and going and tapping the industry-related things. So I think we hope that this is something that we need to work. But at the same time, there's another thing, which is the changing model of education. See, with time, with the technology, with the advancement of whatever the science and others we have, the key idea that what is education itself, the concept of education itself is changing, okay? It's not that, we want to put always a stereotyping of a particular kind of education thrust on our students. We are also trying to see how to match, how to go with the time. But if you look at most of the professors that we have, particularly, let's say, those who are above 40 years, our education and our learning process that we have gone through, they're all like sequential. You take up something, then you have something else, you go like this, you build up topic. Whereas in today's world, it's no longer that sequential anymore. It's more like learning is also like an hypertext document, okay? Where each of these concepts has like a separate URL, and you can just go there, click, you go somewhere else, okay, and then you go somewhere here, you go, and you're trying to see what is required to understand that concept. So around the concept, you try to build your education. Whereas in our case, it was given more like this is what you have to go through. Now you can always, either complain or appreciate. There are both positive and negative aspects, okay? But also understand the pressure on the student is very large. It's not only the kind of, on the teaching part. And I can tell you one example that when my son was, when he was studying, particularly preparing for JEE, as most of you have done it, at some time it's a tough exam. And so we used to make sure that he doesn't get disturbed too much. And once in a while, I used to hear some squeaking sound from the room. And I could never understand that, what is it, like this thing. Something like, some sound of like animal or maybe, something screeching sound. So once I, peeped in to see what is going on. And I find that he's listening to some lecture video of some coaching class or whatever, maybe some NPTEL, whatever. And it is actually being run at twice or thrice the speed. Okay, so sound is very, very unusual. So if you can try to play your, like a fast forward your this thing. And then I was surprised that, why is it doing that? Okay, so I asked like, okay, what is this? It's double the speed. I cannot even listen to the thing properly. And he says, look, Dad, I have time problem. I cannot do everything now. So I have to reduce the time by, whatever the lecture time for the particular teacher for, let's say, 60 minutes into 20 or 30 minutes, okay? He's writing on the board. I can see the writing, okay? If I need, I'll slow down that part and then I can just listen to him. But that way, I cut down my, 50% of my time budget for learning a topic. Now, what would you say that? In our case, you would be like amazed, what is this? Something totally unusual. But the big students are doing it. I'm told that many of his friends are doing it, and I'm sure this may be true for all the fresh students who are sitting back, okay? So, this is a kind of a different type of challenge, okay, for them, because you also want to achieve certain excellence in your mind. You have a dream to pursue, and for that, you will be using whatever the kind of thing that is required to take you, to catapult you to the position that you are envisaging today. Now, only my advice to the young people here is that, in today's world is also what is called the information dominated world, and sometimes there is a danger of information being equated as knowledge. See, the amount of information that we generate, okay, somewhere I was reading that till the year, I think from the year 0 to 1750, okay, at AD, whatever the information was generated, it was almost the same amount of equal amount of thing was done in the next 200 years. Then after that, the same amount was done in 50 years, and it is predicted that by the time we go in like 2035, whatever the total amount of information would be doubled in about 6 months' time. Now, if that is true, that means the paper I write, by the time when it appears in my journal, by the time the information is of value, would be half. Okay? So, but that's information, but that's not knowledge, because that's not what takes us to be a good student. So we have to make sure that we are able to take that particular information to our useful advantage, but we don't get bogged down with that. Okay? So, second thing about I would say the last thing that I would say about the challenges that we face is typically, particularly with IIT education, is very strong in developing analytical skill for you. And that's why many of you, when you go into different kind of analytics domain, be it financial or certain others, okay, you end up doing very well. But somehow our education in IIT system is not very good from the synthesis point of view. Like if you have to build something, construct from ab initio in a new thing, we are not being as good as we should have been, because we do have a good analytical skill. Okay, so this is something that it requires quite a bit of involvement from the students beyond what is being taught in the classes and others. So many of these, even IIT Bombay, we have this kind of tinkerer's lab or something which is open 24/7, where you go and design something. Or there are like different clubs which may be like underwater robotics, or you go like whatever, you develop your satellite. So these are the things now we want this new set of students to actually get into that. And that way you have the kind of a practice of building new. Some of you, of course, have been successful in developing new products, new services and others, but even coming from the engineering disciplines, we want everybody to be equally proficient in terms of doing that. So these are the, I would say, challenges that IIT has to live up to its name. In order to do that, we have to actually work on that to see that we continue to develop, give you the best kind of education which is unmatched anywhere in the world. So that's possible only if we make sure that we keep pace with the changing time. And with that, I would like to say that, it's an exciting time, okay, for all of us. Because why? Because these are the challenges. And the human race is known to thrive only when you are challenged. Okay? So it's always, if you look at whenever there is a challenging situation, good solution comes. If it is things are very too peaceful, nothing happens. Okay? So I see a lot of hope that we'll continue to excel and do much better than even what we are doing today. And our alumni, we have, if you came one day here as somebody looking for knowledge, looking for a way to develop your character, the teachers here, the staff, they provided you like a kind of a parental guidance, and that took you to where you are today. But someday, the parents become old, and then the students take up. So you, the alumni, have to take up the role of supporting the institute and the faculty and all the facilities in whatever way, to be mentoring and other ways, because you are the eyes of IIT Kharagpur to the rest of the world. So always be attached to the institute, that will help you. And I'm sure that with your help, as well as the students that will produce, they will take IIT Kharagpur to IIT 3.0. So that's what is the one. And with that, I congratulate all the awardees. I congratulate IIT Kharagpur for the birthday. And I hope all of you have a nice day. Thank you very much.